Whispers Ilse. Hi guys, this is Ilse, and today I'm going to share my experiences with you guys about having an eating disorder. I had an eating disorder for a few years, and I would like to share with you guys how I overcame this eating disorder and how I experienced it and how it changed me as a person. And the reason why I decided to make this video is because I was already thinking about making a video about this for quite some time now. I already wanted to do it last year, but you always have to wait until the right moment is there to just share your story. So for everyone who is interested, maybe people who are watching this video who have an eating disorder themselves, maybe to have someone in their environment that they think that they have an eating disorder. For those people, this video can be suitable, and I hope that I'm able to help others with sharing my experiences. I didn't have anyone at the time who could relate to me or who basically understood me. So for me, it just felt important to me to do this video. So I'm just going to tell you my story. So when I was around 12 years old, I lived with my dad, and he had a girlfriend at the time with 2 daughters. And when I was around 12 years old, I started to realize that my dad was really ill and that he lived on welfare, and that I should be really grateful for the fact that we always had a meal every night and that he was able to pay the bills. So there was one day, and I can't remember exactly which day it was, but I was pretty sure that I was 12 years old, that I got so nervous all of a sudden. I was sitting at the dinner table, and all of a sudden I got this feeling like something literally grabbed your heart and would squeeze it, like a really, it was an unpleasant feeling. And this feeling, I would describe it as anxiety / panic. And the thing that I was afraid of is that all of a sudden I realized, like, oh my God, I have to finish my food on my plate. I have to eat it because my dad doesn't have a lot of money and he paid for this, so I better eat it. And I think that that's the age where it all got started. I remember that my dad, a couple of years before that, had a girlfriend which was really really tough on me. She didn't like the children. I always had conflicts with her, and it was just one big disaster. She would pretend that she liked me, but behind my dad's back, she would tell me nasty things and things that you don't expect from an adult at that age. And she worked on sailing ships, so she had to deal with a lot of food because she was the person who would make the food for huge amounts of people. She would serve the food, and during that time, we went out to restaurants a lot of times, and I also did some horseback riding back then. And she was really, really, really tough on me food-wise. Always before I went to horseback riding, I was always really nervous and I couldn't eat anything. I would always eat a grilled cheese sandwich, and I was happy if I could eat like 3 bites, if I could take 3 bites of it. But she would always force me to eat while I was so nervous, and I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle it at all. Most of the time when she would if she would give me a hard time, I ended up hanging above the toilet. Didn't have to throw up, but I was so nervous. And I was always really happy when my dad was in the area, or basically saved me, like, okay, we have to go now because otherwise you're going to miss the horseback riding. So I was always really, really happy. And after horseback riding, everything was perfectly fine. Then I was calm, and then I was able to eat again. But I guess I can say it started a little bit earlier then already. I was around 9 at the time, and we would go out in restaurants as well. A lot of the times, like 3 times a week. And when I was sitting at that table with a plate full with food in front of me, all of a sudden I would get this almost claustrophobic kind of feeling that I was like, oh man, my dad doesn't make a lot of money and I have to eat this food in front of me. So I got so nervous, and I would go to the toilet, and I would getting all like nervous kind of feeling. It's a kind of a rushed feeling that you have a lot of adrenaline, and that you become really cold, but you become really sweaty, and all of a sudden your face starts to become really pale. And I had that for years and years. And back to where I started with this video, is that when I was 12 years old, I still had that. I was still really, really nervous. Didn't know what to do when I was at the dining table. So that kept on going for years, and I would tell my dad that I was really nervous and that I had the feeling that I had to eat my food, and my dad would tell me that it was okay, but for some reason in my head it didn't make sense. I felt so guilty when I wouldn't eat my food, if I wouldn't finish my food, and that almost became an obsession for me at some point. So I just want to make a little jump forward in time. When my dad died in 2004, I was just 16, just turned in 16, and I got to live with my foster parents. My dad knew those people already, but I didn't have a good connection with those people. And they were both pilots, and they had 2 kids, if I'm not mistaken, one from 0, or from like just got born, not even a year old, and a daughter of 3 years old. So sometimes they had like a huge house, and sometimes they were gone, and I would be there in that house alone for 2 weeks, still going to high school. And at the time I got my first boyfriend. He was 1 year younger than me. He was 15, I was 16. And he was basically the person that I could fall back on, because my foster parents most of the time weren't home, didn't have a very good connection with them, and they didn't understand how it felt to lost a parent. And I was pretty vulnerable back then, so really nervous, panic attacks, completely different story that I might be able to tell in another vlog. But yeah, my first boyfriend, that was the person that I fell back on, because years later I realized that he was basically a replacement for my dad. And he was the person that I felt comfortable with. So when I was around 17 and a half years old, we were in a relationship for 1.5 years, and he started to get some interest in other girls. He wondered how it was to be with other girls, and there was this one girl. She was, I think, 1 class below me at high school, and I ended up in the same class as he did, because when my dad died I had to go, I don't know how you say that, like one take a step back, and I ended up in the same class as him. And he told me about this girl, and most of the time we would have lunch together during break, And I always saw him looking at that girl, and I started to compare myself with that girl. That was the worst, and I never saw it coming that would end up in an eating disorder, in a serious eating disorder. He would always look at her, and I would always not even be jealous, but I was really concerned that he would leave me because, except from him, I didn't have a lot of people. As many of you know, is that I didn't grow up with my mom. She abused me until I was almost 4 years old, so my dad took me away from her. Also, a different story that I might be able to tell in another vlog. So he was basically the person that I was like my safe haven. And as time passed by, I started to being obsessed with this girl. She was so skinny, and from my point of view, she was really pretty. And yeah, I lost track of who I was. I already didn't had a very clear view of who I was back then after everything that happened, and I lost myself even more. So I was living with my foster parents. I was in the same class as he was, and then you had this beautiful, pretty girl. Later down the road, there came another girl that was even more skinny, and I started to compare myself with these girls because I was just an average Dutch girl, always the black sheep, always a little bit weird because I was raised by my dad, so I wasn't interested in makeup and stuff like that, or girls' evenings. I didn't know that back then. And when I saw those girls, I like wearing makeup and everything, and I was like, wow, those girls are so pretty. I want to be them. And that I want to be them, that was the most dangerous thought that I could have back then. So yeah, I got obsessed with these girls, and last half a year our relationship didn't went well because I was really concerned, and I tried to keep him with me, and he felt like I was claiming him, and he was right because I did, but because I had no one else to fall back on, that was the thing that I did. And obviously years later, right now, like I realized that was obviously not good, but I didn't have anyone at the time who would point me, or who would show me the bigger picture, like, hey, listen, this is what you're doing, and this is not heading into the right direction. So I broke up with him when I was around 18 years old, and I was really, really skinny. In kilograms, I was always an average girl. I was like 62, 64 kilograms. And after that half a year of stress, comparing myself with those girls, getting obsessed, I was around 51 kilograms. So that was pretty skinny. And people around me were concerned, but they didn't do anything about it because I think that they didn't know what to do. And I would always run away from everyone. I was always like, okay, just leave me alone with my emotions. I don't want to talk about it. Just leave me. And there was one person in my life, that was my aunt. And she came in my life when I was around, let's say, before I turned in 18. And that's the sister of my mother. And she literally saved me from killing myself. It sounds really drastic, I know, but back then I was like, I have no mother, I have no dad, I'm not good enough, this world doesn't want me, and I don't know what to do. Like, what am I doing here? What is my purpose? Who am I? So then my aunt came in my life, and she told me, like, listen, you have to break up with that guy because he's not good for you, and it's not the one, because if it would be the one, it wouldn't go like this. And after, I didn't want to hear it. I was like, who are you to tell me stuff like that? Like, you just came into my life. I was like almost 18. So who are you to tell me stuff like that? I would only accept those kind of things of my dad, but obviously he wasn't there anymore. So yeah, she saved me from hurting myself, and I still have a really, really good contact with her. So, okay, that was like one part of the story. And then after I graduated from high school, I was around 18 and a half, I think. Yeah, I think 18 and a half. And then I took a year off because I had no clue what I wanted to study. And in that year, I became really depressed. I moved out as soon as possible when I got the opportunity to move out from my foster parents, because I really didn't like them at the time. And I moved out to my own apartment, and that's when everything happened. I started to binge eating, basically. So I was this super tiny, skinny girl, and then I started to eat and eat and eat in that year. So basically what happened is that I was alone at home. I felt a lot of emotions that I didn't want to deal with, and I went to the supermarket and got a chocolate addiction. Yeah, a chocolate addiction. And around the corner I had a McDonald's, so I could get like a lot of hamburgers and a lot of fries when it was really late in the evening. So I would eat so much chocolate, like my diet was chocolate and hamburgers, and that was it. Because there was no one who could control me, or I didn't have anyone who would look after me, even though I had a good connection with my aunt. But I was so good in hiding those things, and everybody saw that I was going downhill, and that I wasn't doing very well. But at the same time, I was just comforting everyone, like I'm okay and stuff like that, and people would buy it. I was really convincing at the time. So let me see. So yeah, I got that chocolate addiction, and it was horrible. It was really horrible. Only chocolate and hamburgers, and I weighed, like when it started, I was like 51 kilograms, and I gained so much weight. At the end, I weighed 76, and I wasn't able to go to my favorite stores anymore because I had too big of a size for like jeans and everything, and it was I felt so depressed. It was horrible. And in that same year, I decided that I wanted to get rid of it. I was done with it. After 8 months, I was like, okay, I really have to do something about this because I don't want to continue my life like this. And then I decided to go to professional help who would come up with a diet plan for me. And when I walked into that clinic, they asked me, like, what are you doing here? Because you know everything so well. Because I was following a course, like self-study at home, to learn a lot about food. But what I didn't realize is that years later, I actually used that information to become, to get another eating disorder. So that was a preparation that I wasn't even aware of. So she was like, what are you doing here? Because you know all the information. And I said, yeah, I know all the information, but here in my head, it's just not, it's not right. Like, I know that I have to get out of this, but I don't have the strength to get out of it. And, well, I lost some weight. I got back to, I think, 66, and the years after that, I was moving. Like in 5 years' time, I moved 8 times because I wasn't able to find my home, my house. Because with my dad, I always had the feeling like, I'm finally home. But after he died, I was totally lost. And so years later, so I lost some weight. Moved in and out with family, with like different kind of student houses and everything. And then I decided to do a study. And that study was animal care that I started. I graduated in 2011, in June 2011, and I started the study 3 years before that. So that was 2008, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I started in 2008, and I was like, okay, so new study, at least I have something to do now, so I don't have to eat at home all the time alone, and that I'm getting obsessed with all this food. And so yeah, I was actually pretty okay. I got some distraction, but as soon as you got home, you started to feel lonely again, because everybody at your study would talk about like, oh, I still live with my parents, because I was also able to skip a year, and because I did one extra year at high school, I was 2 years older, so I was with pretty young people in the class, and they had no idea of what I was going through or how it was to live alone, and I couldn't share my experiences with anyone there. So in the last year of my study, I got obsessed with my eating disorder again, and this time not chocolate or binge eating, basically not eating anything at all. I wanted to go back to my eating disorder weight again from 51, 52, because I still had the feeling that I wasn't good enough, because I never got the chance to go through all those hard times in life. I never gave myself the opportunity to fix things in my head, because it was all up here. I didn't got over the fact that I lost my dad. The fact that I didn't have a lot of family was really bothering me. It was just, I just didn't have the feeling that I was at the right place. And let me see. So yeah, I got, in my last year, I got really stressed out, and because of the stress, I got a burnout. Like, I literally burned out myself. I was in my examination year 2 years ago, in 2011, and I was the leader of, or the project leader of a lot of groups at my school. So they were all relying on me. And I got a burnout, so I was sitting at home. I would sleep 18 hours a day, and I felt horrible. I still did everything for my study because of the encouraging words of my aunt. She was like, okay, you have to go for it. Just make sure that you finish it, because it's only like half a year away, and then you have your diploma, and then you can do whatever you want. So eventually, I finished my study, but also with a severe eating disorder, because I didn't want to eat anything, so I became skinnier and skinnier and skinnier again, up until the point that I was around 57 kilograms. And then in 2011, around Queen's Day here in the Netherlands, that's on the 30th of April, I was already done with my examinations and everything. I was just waiting for my diploma. And I did some jobs on the side through an agency who would like find some jobs for you, part-time jobs. And so around Queen's Day, that was when my eating disorder started. My eating disorder for bulimia. It was Queen's Day, and I had a really good time. I was hanging out with a lot of friends, and like pretty much in my element, you would say. But at that day, I ate so much, and when I came home, I was like, wow, I'm so full. And that made me really nervous, because I always have that, like when I'm too full. I already had that when I was a kid, really like weak stomach, especially with stress, or when you have like anxiety, like oh no, this is not good, maybe I have to throw up, and then I made myself even more nervous. So at the end of the day, the throw up, and I was like, wow, that actually felt kind of good. Yeah, that's not good. If you have that thought in your head and you throw up and you're like, wow, this actually felt pretty good and this went really easy, that's not good. That's the huge freaking alarm bell that should ring in your head. And I didn't. I was like, okay, fine. And I didn't saw the danger in it. I was like, okay, I'll just do this a couple of times after that, to keep my weight, and then I can just eat whatever I want. Like, how easy can that be, right? That was my thought. And at the time, I had a boyfriend who was very sensitive for food as well, and anxiety attacks, panic attacks. He was really insecure about himself. This was in 2011. And later down the road, I discovered that he also had an eating disorder. And after Queen's Day, everything changed. I started to eat a lot, and I would throw up again. And I had a job during the day, and I would just eat lunch. But as soon as I came home at night, when I would feel lonely, I would cook a huge amount of food. I would eat it, and then I would toss it again. And that went on for a pretty long time, from April till December, I think, yeah, December 2011. And I couldn't do it anymore because I got weaker and weaker, and I worked around 60 hours a week, 3 different jobs, and I would throw up every night. In April and May and June, it started with once an evening, and later down the road, I started to throw up every single time when I would eat something. So that ended up in a disaster, basically, for my body. Like, I was literally breaking myself down. Like, my muscles were becoming, well, my body was eating my muscles because it needed something to keep me warm and everything. And I was cold all the time, and I was back to my old weight again, from 51 kilograms. So in 2011, in December, I got a breakdown after 3 different jobs, working 60 hours a week. I got a breakdown, and I was stuck at home, and I never felt so miserable. Back then, the boyfriend that I had didn't understand me. He had an eating disorder as well. He would have like binge eating, and then long periods of eating nothing at all. And I saw exactly what was going on with him, but he didn't know what was going on with me. He found out about that like probably in November or something like that. And well, obviously I was already really skinny, and everyone around me saw that I was really skinny. But for some reason, every time when I said like, okay, everything is fine and stuff like that, people would buy it. So yeah, I went through so much stuff, and I just didn't know what to do, and I was desperate. And the awful thing was that in December, when I had that eating disorder, I had to came out of the closet, kinda, if you know what I mean. Like, nobody knew that I had an eating disorder. It was from one day to another. I think it was the 14th of December in 2011. And then I had to tell everyone about my eating disorder. Everyone. On my work, at my work, my 3 jobs that I worked, obviously, all my friends, all my family. And nobody was really surprised because everybody already knew that I had something with food for, let's say, the last decade. And that's when it happened. I realized, like, okay, I need help. I can't handle this by myself, because it's not the eating disorder that's the problem. No, that's like a chain reaction. It's not the eating disorder itself, but what causes this eating disorder then? Like, what's the reason behind this? And I started digging and digging, because I've analyzed myself a lot over the years. Didn't got a lot of help from psychologists, almost nothing, because I could always pretend like, yeah, everything is fine. And because I'm an easy talker, they would actually think like, okay, nothing is wrong because you can put things into perspective and you know what's going on and you know what causes the actual problem. So then I decided to sign up for help, and I found a coach in my hometown. She was really nice, and I really had the feeling like, okay, I have the feeling that the reason why I have an eating disorder is because I don't know who I am, and the reason why is because I always took care for my mother, and then after my mother died, or after I got to live with my dad, when I took care of him and he died when I was 16, I fell in an empty hole because I was used to taking care of my dad, and then all of a sudden when I was 16 he left me, and then after that, like, my first boyfriend left me as well. So it was chain reaction after chain reaction after chain reaction, and all of a sudden it became clear to me that I was emotionally exhausted, but I couldn't show my emotions because I was never crying. And I was never crying. I was like, okay, I will just make it on my own. Like, I'm in survivor. I was in survivor mode constantly. I got lived by emotions, even though I was pushing them back all the time, and I was living by what other people said about me, what other people were thinking about me, what other people thought that would be good for me. And I was never thinking about what do I think is good for me, or what do I want, or stuff like that, or what do I feel. And I was always ashamed of who I was because that's what I surrounded myself with. And I never got the right people around me who said like, okay, you're good enough. I got one person who said that, and that was my aunt. But for some reason, it didn't connect it or whatever in my head. I was just convinced that I wasn't good enough. And then when I came to the therapist, I went there for about 3 times, and after the 3rd session, I had to cry a couple of times in those sessions, so that was really good because I was like, wow, I can finally like just show my emotions and I don't have to be ashamed of that. And she would really ask me like, what do you feel now? And for me it was such a struggle to put it into words what I actually felt. And then I decided to follow some intense therapy for my eating disorder, and I wanted to follow some intense therapy in a group. And I was always against groups because I was like, yeah, okay, if I'm in a group, then you're with people who are in the same situation, and I'm only going to use that information to make it even worse. So that's not handy. And then in February 2012, I started my YouTube channel, The Water Whispers. And I was listening to ASMR videos already since 2011. And I noticed that I got a great deal of comfort out of them. And I decided to start my own channel because I wanted to give something back, and because I had the feeling, okay, I want to do something for someone. I want to mean something. I want to have a purpose. And I just started making videos and sharing my little rambles with people about what I did in daily life and what I went through in my life. And I noticed that the feedback that I got from all of you, from all of my subscribers, and the amount of people who subscribed to me in the first few weeks, like, wow, it was unbelievable. And there I was with my eating disorder behind the camera, and you guys didn't know that back then. And I noticed that my self-confidence started to come back again, because all of a sudden I got this confirmation from people like, you're good enough, and your work, what you do, I really enjoy it, and you really help me to sleep at night. And then all of a sudden I felt like, hey, I can actually help people. And it was always a dream of me to help people. First I wanted to become a dietitian, but I already realized in 2011, like, that's not handy, because if you have an eating disorder yourself and you're going to study food to make other people better, you have to be in a certain state to deal with that. You have to do that, like, when you overcame your eating disorder already, not when you're like right in it. And I was like, wow, if they find out while I'm doing the study that I have an eating disorder, that's not going to work. And then I had another option to become a psychologist, but I was like, I have so much things that I have to do with myself first before I can do that. That will take me years. So there I was behind the camera making videos for you guys. And that's when everything changed for me. When I got that positive feedback that cured me from so many things. Not even the ASMR videos itself, but because the community is so loving. And you really get the feeling that people really care. And I know that people really care. And I really care about others. So I was like, wow, there is no better way that I can share my experiences and try to help others with the things that I've been through. And making relaxation videos for people and get all this amazing feedback. Like, there's nothing more beautiful in the world than that. And then in February I met Chris, my fiance right now, and he really changed. He's a really big part of the fact that he changed my life. Like, I was already heading in the right direction with all the positive feedback and the positive comments that I got from all of my wonderful subscribers and viewers and people behind the scene, basically. So I signed up for that intensive therapy with like a group and for my eating disorder and everything, but I already noticed, like, hey, I actually noticed that I already start to feel better again because of all of this, because of the amazing and positive feedback that I get. So yeah, the plan was to start with my therapy as soon as possible. But over time I had the feeling like I overanalyzed everything so much during the years, and I know exactly what it is. The only thing that I need is someone who really believes in me, and that I start to believe in myself again. And that's when I met Chris, and I decided to book a ticket to Canada as soon as possible because I wanted to know if it was real and if it wasn't an illusion, and I was still and I still have my eating disorder. So I decided to go to Canada and just to see what happened. And I already told him, like, hey, listen, I have an eating disorder. I'm struggling with, like, especially in the beginning of a relationship, that I get nervous and stuff like that. And he was like, everything will be fine, and I'll make sure that you're relaxed and comfortable once you're here. So that's when I booked a ticket to Canada, and I went to Canada for 3 weeks in April, 22nd of April last year. That's when I arrived in Canada, and I was like still so skinny. I was like 52 kilograms, and obviously the portions in Canada are huge. So yeah, that's when I met the love of my life, and everyone that I met through the community, just everything together. That's the thing that cured me. Especially because of the portions in Canada, I had to eat a lot more, and because I was with someone who just accepted me for who I was and told me every day how beautiful I was and that I was good enough. I came back from that trip in June, and I was still having my therapy sessions, and I was a completely different person. It was unbelievable. It was like, I went to the therapist and I said, like, you're not going to believe this, but I don't struggle with food anymore. I can eat whatever I want. I don't throw up anymore. And I actually gained a lot of self-confidence again because of all the amazing people. So then I told her about ASMR and about my YouTube channel, and I decided not to do the intensive therapy anymore. But I would still stay with my coach just for like once every week, to see if this would continue like this or if I would fall back, because the chance that you fall back is obviously pretty big. So yeah, and after a few weeks, when I was back in the Netherlands in June, I decided to go back to Canada again, and that was basically the last push that I needed when I was with Chris, and I got that confirmation again, like you're good enough the way you are, and that I noticed like, wow, this is the person that I want to spend the rest of my life with, and all the wonderful people that I met on YouTube and that I talk to on a daily basis. I just went from there to there. I just shoot up, and I was cured from my eating disorder. So most recently, Chris got over here for 3 weeks, or 3 months, I mean, and we would cook together and just having like regular meals, like in the morning, afternoon, evening, or sometimes we would turn around like day and night rhythm basically, and that's how I cured from my eating disorder. And I still can't believe that this all happened in such a short time, but it did. And I'm so incredibly happy and relieved that I'm not having this eating disorder anymore. I can't say that I lost it completely, because sometimes I still have that little voice in the back of my head like, oh, is it smart to do that? But it's not obsessive anymore. It's just the way how it's supposed to be, that if you want to go out for dinner, that you don't have something like, oh, okay, like after that I have to go and that person has to get back home so that I can throw up again, like how it went for over a year. And I'm so incredibly grateful for all of you, because I know that a lot of people always keep telling me like, no, we should thank you, we should thank you. Well, no, I should thank you from the bottom of my heart, because without you guys, I wouldn't have been here in my life right now, and I never would have been this happy. I never would have met all these wonderful people, and it's just really amazing to me. It's so amazing to me how wonderful you people are. So yeah, that's my story about my eating disorder, and I hope that I can help some people with this. If you have any questions for me about how it is to have an eating disorder, or what are the symptoms, obviously everyone is different, and the only thing that I can do is share my story with you guys and hope that someone that I can help someone by telling my story, because they can relate to it. And I want to say that even though you're all the way down there and you have the feeling that there is no hope, try to go out there. Try to contact with people. It doesn't matter what you do. Try to hang out with people who are positive and who can support you and who love you no matter what. That's so incredibly important. And try to be open. I had that breakthrough when I really had to in December in 2011, and I can tell you it wasn't fun, but I'm so happy that it happened. It was one of the most worst moments in my life back then, and if I look at it right now, it's one of the best moments. It's one of the best things that ever happened to me, because I was forced to tell everyone about my eating disorder. So please, if you have an eating disorder, it's not worth it. Life has so much to offer. There are so many positive people out there in life, and otherwise you will never get to know them. And none of you people deserve that. You really don't. So yeah, that was my story for my eating disorder. And all I wanted to do is to share my experiences with you so that maybe someone can relate to this and that I can help you guys. And just to let you know that you're not alone. I had an eating disorder. I know that some of my viewers have an eating disorder as well who want to stay in the background, but I did got some comments because I mentioned it before in one of my videos on my channel. And if you struggle with an eating disorder, keep struggling with it. Don't give up. That's the last freaking thing that you want to do. It's not worth it. Try to step out there. Try to grab all your courage together to just tell someone, because it's so important. You deserve to be happy in life. You deserve it. And I just want to give you all a big hug right now. I'm just so incredibly grateful, and thank you so much for letting me sharing my story with you. And I love you guys so much. If you want to share your experiences with me, feel free to email me. Might take a while before I'm replying, because I get a lot of messages, but I read everything, and especially in cases that I know that people really need me, I'm there. You're not alone. So, thank you very much for everything that you guys did for me, and I love you very much.